Tuesdays with Dr. T, Dr. Nelson in the house. Tuesdays with Dr. T, this is the Wake Up program, and we're trying to wake you up alongside Pastor Dennis Shepard.
Yes.
At United Methodist Church. Not for long. Pastor Shepard nearing retirement.
I sure am.
So closing in on retirement, but he is from Hope Mills, and he is from the town that it has a new dam.
Under construction, yes.
As we speak. See what we've been able to achieve on this radio show?
Yeah.
It's only been 6 years of pushing the state and local government to fix a lake at Hope Mills. And upon Pastor Shepard's retirement, we finally have a dam.
I got to live here 16 years and only had water 3 years.
3 years.
So I'm afraid to come back.
Look what we've been able to achieve.
Yeah.
See, God works in mysterious ways.
That's
Pastor.
right.
But you can't give up.
Yeah.
That's the lesson.
They got a competent crew in there now, tearing out the old dam, getting ready to build a new one.
It only cost $9 million.
It cost $14 million the first time.
$14 million. $14 million. Can you imagine?
Yes.
$14 million. But finally, the dam will be rebuilt.
The mayor and the commissioners in Hope Mills have done a superb job, let me say that, in getting all this done.
And they shall be water in the lake.
Absolutely.
Pastor Shepard won't see it.
No.
He'll be
I
retired.
will. I'll come back. I'll
He'll
come
come
back to
back.
visit, and I'll get to see the water,
And, you're retiring. Your party is on the 19th,
19th,
right?
that's right.
And on the 18th, we're having the Nelson & Nelson 20th year celebration.
That's right.
In Hope Mills in the parking lot. Please join us.
Yes.
We'll have all the radio stations there. We'll be broadcasting live from the parking lot.
Yeah.
We will have Don. We will have a show. We will have stage. We will have food. We will have magicians. We will have jumpy tents. We will have clowns. Nelson & Nelson T-shirts. The 2 million, 3 millionth T-shirt will be handed out.
Right.
Mom and Dad will be there. My brother will be there. The staff will be there. And please join us on the 18th
And I'll
in
be
the
there.
parking lot. Pastor Shepard will be there.
Yeah.
We'll do our final show
Yeah.
in the parking lot with Don.
Yeah.
And we'll introduce our first patient, Flo Fuquay, if she's out there listening. And also Officer Fox.
Yeah.
Isn't it funny? Lieutenant Officer Fox, I started treating him in 1996, June 18th, the first two patients. Now he's close to retirement.
Right.
So he's retiring from the Army, and Flo Fuquay has been with us for 20 years. She was one of our first patients that walked in the door, 20 years ago. And she's still a part of our practice, and she's still a part of our working team. She does outside activities.
Right.
She does the Friday night football with us. When we go out to the schools and whatever activities we do, she's always there talking about chiropractic. So you'll get a chance to meet Flo, and pretty special day. I'll never forget it. The first day in practice, here's the reality. The reality is when you go into practice, first you graduate from school, you have no money.
Right.
You have hundreds of thousands of dollars in student loan debt. Then you try and go into practice and nobody wants to give you a loan.
Right.
Right? So you go to every bank in town.
Right.
And you meet every banker and they say, well, you need a small business proposal. So then you put together, you don't know what is a small business proposal?
Right.
So I was told to go to FTCC, so I had to sit through night classes for the SBA loan to put together my proposal.
Right.
So I go through all these night classes, and I put together the proposal. Go back to the banks, still won't give me a loan.
Right.
Right? So we scrounge up every dollar we have, and you open your first practice on Yakin Road. And of course, the first day, you're waiting for somebody to walk through the door.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Flo, came walking through the door. And also Officer Fox, I guess he saw a sign outside, of chiropractic. That was it, 2 patients.
Yeah.
And you've got maybe 3 or 4 months to survive.
Yeah.
So can you imagine the pressure, in practice, going into practice? There's no sense of failure. You have to survive.
Right.
So the fear of failure is what drives you.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget another chiropractor in town who was our age at the time. This was 20 years ago. He had started his practice, about a year before we did. And he said, "Oh, you can't worry about trying to make ends meet for the first 6 months." I thought he was crazy. I said, "We've got to worry about tomorrow. Are you out of your mind? We can't wait 6 months.
Right.
We'll be out of practice."
Yeah.
So that's where it began. I mean, anywhere, any place anybody would have us, we went.
Right.
To teach about chiropractic, parking lots,
Yeah.
Walmart, Target parking lot,
Yeah.
the courtyard at the back then it was the Fayetteville Generals,
Right, Federal Generals, yeah.
and we'd set up in the courtyard every night after work. Set up a tent. We didn't have anything, maybe little spinal keychains, you know.
Yeah.
And I'd say, "Oh, come on in, enjoy the game. Would you like your spine checked?" And my brother would be under the tent,
Yeah.
you know, checking spines and offering free exams and evaluations. So
Yeah.
that's how it started
Yeah.
20 years ago, and the rest is history.
And God has blessed you greatly.
Oh, absolutely. You know, I'm very, very, very happy and very thankful. I
And
mean,
Dr. T, let me give a testimonial.
Right.
This past weekend, my wife and I were walking, and I sprained my lower right calf. So I went in yesterday. Dr. Scott gave me a X-ray,
Right.
examined my leg, prescribed the treatment. I went through the treatment. 45 minutes later, I walked out pain-free.
Right. Well, that's unbelievable. You know, that's great stories, and I
Yeah.
love to hear those stories.
Yeah.
And over the years, we've had tons of stories like
Yeah.
that. You know, chiropractic is probably the most safe, I should say, the safest form of treatment you can ever expect.
Absolutely.
You know, I read an article the other day, 1,000 people a year die in North Carolina from prescription medications.
Yeah.
1,000 people.
And the second leading cause of death in this country right now
Prescription.
and accidents in hospitals.
Right. Prescription medications and the
Medical
wrong
mistakes, it's
intervention.
called medical mistakes.
30,000 people are dying a year from prescription pills. We're a pill-filled crazy, and ask your doctor has not worked.
Yeah.
It's resulted in a lot of deaths and a lot of overdoses.
And now people who can't get their Oxycontin anymore are going to heroin.
Heroin, that's why
Yeah.
the rise in heroin
It's
is
driving
through the roof.
heroin. Baltimore is considered the heroin capital, and it's because of that, Dr.
It's
T.
insane. Chiropractic kills 0
Yeah.
people a year.
Yeah, 0.
0 people.
A year.
Has 0 side effects.
Right.
Is 0 invasive. It's unbelievable that it's not prescribed, encouraged, it's not included. The Blue Cross and Blue Shield pays 0
Right.
when it comes to the budget of chiropractic. I mean, it is minuscule. It's not even worth the paper to send the bills in, because it doesn't pay for chiropractic.
No.
So, you know,
But if people knew, my wife and I were talking about this the other night, if people knew what we know, we're both chiropractic patients, if people knew what we knew, you wouldn't have room for all the patients in your practice.
well, that's why you got to keep
So,
at it. And,
that's
you
right.
know, that's why as a chiropractor, see a lot of chiropractors, you know, you can see the glass half empty or half full.
Right.
Right? If I said to you, you know, there's people out there that need electric, and, you know, you're one of 100 electricians,
Right.
you would say, well, that's great. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, it's fantastic. A lot of people need electric. Almost everybody needs chiropractic. So it's up to the chiropractor to get out there and let people know what he can do.
If I had gone to the emergency room with that sprain, it would have cost me $2,500, and I'd still be doped up.
Well, that's the insane part about it.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
really.
yeah.
I mean, back pain is $50,000. It keeps
Plus.
people out of work,
Yeah.
rehabilitation, physical therapy, long-term disability. The amount of money spent is astronomical compared to chiropractic. Chiropractic is a pimple on a bull's rear end.
Yes.
When it comes to the budget, honestly,
Yeah.
it's really what it amounts to.
Yeah.
I mean, it's nothing, and the benefits are great, because if you could just save 100 people a year
Yeah.
in the Blue Cross Blue Shield plan from back surgery or neck surgery, what does that amount to in savings to Blue Cross Blue Shield? But they don't see it that way.
No, they don't.
They saw a growing profession. They squeezed this profession because it's a minor profession,
Yeah.
and they squeezed it down to a couple of visits a year. And it's a shame, because people benefit from it, you know.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, you know, I don't want to get off on that, because I could talk about that all day.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Now,
The subject of today's
we do have
conversation.
another subject, by the way.
That's right. We have multiple
Subjects.
today. And
Yeah.
what we want to talk about is, you know, I've talked about this over and over and over and over and over and over again. And I talk about government waste.
Yes.
The government doesn't need any more money. The government's got plenty of our money, but
Yeah.
it wastes so much money. So much money is wasted. It's just ridiculous how much money is wasted. And if you watch 60 Minutes this weekend,
Yes.
you saw that the Army came up with this, you know, harebrained idea, which wasn't a bad idea, but they were going to give recruiters bonuses based on the amount of recruits, amount of soldiers that they brought into the National Guard.
Yeah, any soldier. The soldier could go out and, by the way, the name of that segment was called Aftershock.
Right.
It was the Recruiting Assistance Program. This was done by the National Guard.
Because there was so many soldiers in the field during this period, 2005,
who were getting out and weren't
they were at
re-upping.
2 wars, Afghanistan, Iraq,
Yeah.
and the National Guard was stretched.
And they weren't re-upping, and they were short, and they needed soldiers to have the combat units filled.
Right. So they offered soldiers $2,000 to recruit other
For
soldiers.
each soldier they recruited.
Right.
Okay. We're going to
We're
take a
taking
break.
Oh, we are taking a break.
Yeah, we are.
But anyway, we're going to tell you what happened.
Yeah.
And what happened in that program.
Hold on to your hat.
Hold on to your hats, because you're not going to believe it.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not going to believe how much money we spend in this country, and we waste, and at the end, how the soldier suffers.
Sure.
It's just, you know, you watch these programs, you want to pull the hair out of your heads. I'm Dr. Nelson. We'll take a break right back after these messages. I'm Dr. Nelson. We'll be right back. Tuesdays with Dr. T, along with Pastor Dennis Shepard. We'll be right back.
Right back.
June 16, 1996, we opened our first doors at Yakkin Road in Fayetteville, North Carolina. 2016 marks our 20th anniversary. Hi, I'm Dr. Nelson at Nelson & Nelson Chiropractic Centers. I can still recall the first 2 patients we ever saw, Officer Fox and Mrs. Flo Fuqua. 20 years later, they are both still in our lives. Officer Fox is close to retirement, and Flo Fuqua is part of our working family. Our formula has been simple: no waiting, minimal paperwork, and doctors and staff that put you first. Thank you for 20 great years.
Hi, I'm Pastor Dennis Shepard, and I'm a chiropractic patient at Nelson Chiropractic Center. I had back problems, and I came in for treatment. They took care of me, x-rays, therapy, adjustments, and today I have an active lifestyle. If you have back problems, why don't you try chiropractic too? I promise it'll make a difference for you. Nelson & Nelson Chiropractic Center, we care for you.
Nelson & Nelson Chiropractic Center, we care for you.
Commissioner, another patient has called in with back pain.
Holy moly manipulations. This is a job for Backman.
It's a race for relief. Will Backman make it on time? For more of this continuing saga, stay tuned. Same back time, same back channel.
Tuesdays with Dr. T. I'm
Yes.
Dr. Nelson at Nelson & Nelson Chiropractic Centers, celebrating 20 years, June 18th. Meet us in the parking lot at Hope Mills on June 18th. We're going to have a big party for all of our patients.
What time's it going to start, Dr.
1 o'clock.
1 o'clock.
1 to 5. We're going to be out there with all the
1 to
radio
5.
stations, and lots of fun. All right, so getting back to this program. So the government sets up this program because we need soldiers. So you scratch your head and say, what would be the easiest way of getting more soldiers?
Right.
What would you do? I mean, what would be the logical thing to do?
Well, the logical thing to do would be to ask soldiers to recruit other soldiers.
Right, but if you had money to give, what would you do?
Give the money to the new recruits coming in, yeah.
You'd offer more money to the recruits.
Yeah.
Just say, listen, if you sign
Signing
on today,
bonus, yeah.
you get $2,000 or $3,000 extra dollars.
Yeah.
Instead, they offered soldiers to recruit other soldiers to give them bonuses.
Yeah.
And of course, you know, it gets out of control. Nobody's watching until, and it costs a fortune.
Yeah, there's no preventive measures put in place to prevent fraud from taking place. So naturally, it's going to happen. It's just human nature. It's going to happen.
And it costs the government what, $10 million?
Well, they spent $28 million in investigating this to uncover $10 million in fraud. So we're $38 million in the hole, folks. Okay?
Can you
38 million.
imagine? So the government spent $28 million.
Yes.
To uncover $10 million. They're not going to get back.
No.
These are soldiers that are trying to do their duty. 100, what was it, 100,000?
A number of them that got like $40,000 to $60,000 paid back like $5,000 or $6,000 in a plea bargain deal.
But at the end of the day, it's like 60 soldiers out of 100,000.
Yeah.
Or it's 100, what is it, 100,000?
Well,
100
80 soldiers pled guilty to fraud. 60 are still under indictment, but most of them are being found not guilty in federal court.
And the other thing is a lot of them pleaded because they just wanted to get out of the mess.
That's right. They interviewed one guy in the segment that was offered a plea bargain to pay back $6,000 and walk away, but he refused to do that because he wanted to clear his name. He went to court and he won in court.
And he won in court. But,
He had to take a medical discharge because they were still going to punish him.
And he wasn't going to get his position back in the Army.
That's right.
So it's this, dumping on soldiers again, these people that are sent off to these wars you know, Iraq and Afghanistan, and then they come back and then they, you know, re-up or trying to re-up other soldiers, trying to sign new soldiers, and you know, they come down on these guys. I mean, honestly, are you kidding me? For the $10 million, they're going to spend $28 million going after a recruiting soldier just because he was in the mall and he told a friend who told a friend to come sign up. And the person signed up, but it wasn't officially a walk-in; it was a referral. I mean, this is nonsense. You know, you know, we talked about $60 million that disappeared in a hefty bag in a flight over Afghanistan during the war, and here's $10 million, and they're coming down on these soldiers. You know, it's just a crying shame. And if you watch the program on Sunday night, you know, you had to agree that this just, it seems ridiculous.
Not to mention all the money that's given for crazy programs that are, it's really political payback, like $12 million to study the mating habit of some kind of pygmy goat.
No, that's just part of the expenditures.
Seriously.
And in this week, what do we learn? And this isn't the only subject. The TSA, right? One of the heads of the TSA, which they found 90% of bombs, fake bombs and fake guns that they tried to get through the security, went through security. Went through
90%.
security. 95% made it through the security. So this is, you know, we're spending a fortune on TSA.
And knives. They said ceramic
And
knives.
knives.
Ceramic knives don't show up in a metal detector.
That's right. And you know, grandma's got to be wanded. Junior has got to be wanded and stripped down because of this nonsense. And 95% are still getting through. Well, the head of the TSA, or one of the head executives of the program, was getting $90,000 in bonuses last year. And they gave it to him in 9 checks at $10,000 from through the TSA. So this is why in the last couple of weeks you've had these huge lines now because of the black eye of the TSA. Now they're going to crack down on us, on the people, because of these problems that have been exposed. It just goes on and on and on. You know, the head of the IRS, same scandal. You know, that was in the paper. House panel hearing lawmakers who want IRS chief impeached because of some of the nonsense that was going on over there, some of the weekend conventions and the parties they were having on the people's dime. The VA, the head of the VA, in just the last week, likened the lines at the VA to going to Disney World. You know, and what's it costing the American people? It's costing a fortune. I mean, a fortune. Where is the money going, and who's managing these programs for us?
Don't you remember one show we did on the VA? They took all the executives and had a humongous gathering, spent millions of dollars, and I forget how many million it was just on the champagne and the you know the snacks, the hors d'oeuvres.
It's absolutely, this thing with the Army just exemplifies the huge amount of abuse in our system. And the huge amount of money that goes through our system and is mismanaged
and the lack of accountability.
Because it's government funding. It's all government money.
That's right. Somebody else's money.
You're not responsible for it. You're not responsible for it. You know, and it's these huge bureaucracies with all these levels of red tape, right? That's why they say if you get a government job early in your life, you're set for life. Right? They can never fire you. You got great benefits, right? You don't, you know, no one's overseeing you. No one's going to kick you out of your position, right? And you're not going to lose your position.
And you work 20 years and retire and draw a pension that the union would be envious of.
Well, that's true. That's true. And you know, it's absolutely mismanagement.
It is.
And nobody's accountable. The fact that this VA guy is still around is unbelievable.
I still remember the $500 toilet seats and the $250 hammers and.
That went on during the Reagan administration.
And before and after the Reagan administration.
And how long ago was that?
30
years ago.
30 years ago. It was in the 80s.
So it continues. The government spends $4 trillion a year. Right? And what do we have for it? What do we have for it? We've got horrible schools. Right? We got a horrible healthcare system. Right? What do we
badly
get?
Broken.
The roads, the bridges, the airports. I mean, he's right. I mean, infrastructure is crumbling, and we got nothing for it. You would think if we spent $4 trillion a year, you know, we'd be golden. Right?
Oh, yeah.
So when you look at programs like this, you see all the waste, and you scratch your head and go, listen, wouldn't it have been easier to take $30 million and just give it to the new recruits? Didn't anybody come up with that bright idea? maybe we just need to give bonuses to people that are going to sacrifice their lives for this country and just give them $2,000 or $3,000.
That makes too much sense, Dr. T. That makes too much sense.
Oh my
too
God!
Easy. Too easy.
Honestly, I mean, look. When it comes to common sense, there's one thing I know I've got, and that's common sense. But man, oh man, is that a commodity these days?
Yeah, it is.
I mean, whatever happened to good old common sense?
Yeah.
I mean, it just doesn't seem to exist.
It reminds me of the story of the gentleman that was coming home from work, and he had a flat tire right in front of an insane asylum, and he got out to change the tire, and he got the tire off, and he had the lugs in the hubcap, and he accidentally kicked the hubcap, and the lugs rolled into a storm drain. And he said, what in the world am I going to do? Well, there was a patient who was sitting out there in a chair watching him through the fence. He said, well, why don't you take one lug off the other three and put on that one, and it'll hold it till you can get to a service station and get some lugs. He said, man, that's a pretty smart idea. He said, mister, I may be insane, but I'm not stupid. So, there's a lack of common sense.
Well, it's just it's in every department.
Yes, it is.
I mean, it's government bureaucracy, and I'm telling you, man.
At its worst, and you wonder how educated people can do such stupid things.
But you think at some point it's not. It's that people just don't care.
They don't care.
That's it.
They
It's
don't
so
care.
big and so bloated
Right.
that it just needs such a downsizing.
It does.
It is so inflated.
Just take one area, education. There was a time that education belonged in the local community. The parents, the teachers, administrators were a team working together. We made education a political football. We centralized it. We brought in these experts who'd never been in a classroom and told them to write curriculum and methodology for teaching. And you want to know why education in public schools is in a mess today?
Right.
We got wonderful teachers out there trying their best, but they're hamstrung, Dr. T. It's like trying to swim across the Cape Fear River with chains wrapped around your feet.
Right.
It's hard to do.
Yeah, well, I think that's why more and more people are sending their kids to
Private schools. You're exactly right.
I mean,
or homeschool.
Well, yeah.
Homeschool's growing by leaps and bounds in this country, and private schools, when they open one, they fill up overnight.
That's true.
And
all
every
the
one of them in
classic
Fayetteville's got a
schools-
waiting list.
And the classic schools in
Right.
Fayetteville have a waiting list. Well, that
Yeah.
should tell you something. And
Right.
that should tell educators something that,
Yeah.
there's got to be an alternative because it's not working. And the amount of money you spend is just not working. It's
not
just,
working.
We spend a fortune on health care. In fact, I think we spend more money on health care than any other country, any other nation in the
civilized
universe.
world.
And we don't get the same bang for the buck.
No.
We don't get it because we probably look, if this is any indication how we spend the money, there's plenty of wasteful spending.
Right.
I mean, it's just not being spent correctly. If you gave individuals that kind of money and you set up a situation where you could privatize a lot of the education, I guarantee you that there would be change, real change. It's like I said, if it was made a lot easier to start a private school, you'd see them popping up left and right.
Yeah.
I mean, if the government would give out vouchers, you'd see people starting private schools and more of these charter schools.
Yeah.
Because it would be profitable.
Right.
Right? So they'd want to start a school. You'd want to open up a new school because,
Right.
hey, there's a huge market for this. There's a lot of people that want to send their kids to smaller classrooms where there's a lot more discipline and the education is better.
More
and the kids,
focused,
better
yes.
learning environment.
Right.
Less nonsense, less discipline problems.
Yeah.
And I'm going to send my kid to this school instead of sending them to a public school.
Yeah.
I pointed this out to a coach
Yeah.
in the Cumberland County system. I was reading the newspaper, and in the sports section, 9 or 10 of the top basketball players in Cumberland County, all Christian schools.
Yeah.
All of them.
Yeah.
Fayetteville Christian, Trinity Christian, Village, Marine, you name it. They were all coming from Christian schools.
Yeah.
So I scratched my head and I said, you know what, that's interesting. Because these kids, these kids are probably from the public sector. Their parents chose to put them in private schools.
Right.
Christian schools.
Yeah.
And apparently the programs in some of these Christian schools, the basketball programs, I didn't know this, are very competitive now.
They are.
Freedom
And
Christian.
some of the top recruits at colleges are going after coming out of private school.
Well, that's it. The recruits are now coming to these private schools. Trinity.
Yeah.
The kid that just graduated Trinity, they said all the top Duke was there,
Yeah.
NC State was there throughout the year,
Yeah.
attending basketball games to see these
Absolutely.
kids.
Yeah.
So maybe the parents know something that the rest of us don't know, that, hey, their kids are getting a better education at some of these private Christian schools.
Yep.
And it's not seeming to affect their future as far as a student athlete because they're still getting recruited to top Division I schools.
Absolutely.
We'll be right back. We're talking about wasteful spending.
Yes.
$4.4 trillion a year the government spends. Where does it go? No one knows. We'll be right back after these messages.
June 16, 1996, we opened our first doors at Yadkin Road in Fayetteville, North Carolina. 2016 marks our 20th anniversary. Hi, I'm Dr. Nelson at Nelson & Nelson Chiropractic Centers. I can still recall the first two patients we ever saw, Officer Fox and Mrs. Flo Fuqua. 20 years later, they are both still in our lives. Officer Fox is close to retirement, and Flo Fuqua is part of our working family. Our formula has been simple. No waiting, minimal paperwork, and doctors and staff that put you first. Thank you for 20 great years.
You know, 100 years ago, this poem was written, and it's still true to this day.
Yeah.
Okay? Our forefathers must have been just as upset as we were.
Yeah.
Tax your land, and tax your wage, and tax his bed in which he lays.
Yeah.
Tax his tractor, and tax his mule, and teach him taxes is the rule.
Yeah.
Tax his cow, and tax his goat, tax his pants, and tax his coat. Tax his ties and tax his shirts, and tax his work and tax his dirt.
Yeah.
Tax his chew and tax his smoke. Teach him taxes are no joke. Tax his car and tax his grass, and tax the roads that he must pass.
Yeah.
Tax his food and tax his drink. Tax him if he tries to think.
Yeah.
Tax his soda and tax his beer, and if he cries, tax his tears.
Yeah.
Tax his bills and tax his gas, and tax his notes and tax his cash.
Yeah.
Tax him good and let him know that after taxes, he'll have no dough.
Yeah.
If he hollers, tax him more, and tax him till he's good and sore.
Yeah.
Tax him in his coffin, and tax him in his grave, and tax the sod in which he lays.
Yeah.
Put these words upon his tomb, taxes drove me to my doom.
Yeah.
And when he's gone, we won't relax. We'll still be there after the inheritance tax.
Yes. Yes.
This country has got problems, folks.
Yes.
And we got to wake up, and we got to make sure we put it back in order.
Common sense solutions to problems.
Bingo.
Yes. Common sense solutions.
Bingo. And I don't care if it's red, blue, Democrat, Republican, liberal, libertarian. I could care less. Okay?
As long as it was
As long as we
sense.
get these problems solved, we need to solve them.
And break free of this gridlock.
That's right. Throw
Break
these
free of the
politicians
gridlock.
out. Anybody who
Yeah.
spends a lifetime in Washington, throw them out.
Yeah.
Because they're not solving the problems.
Yes.
Those problems should be solved in one term, 2 terms. You're there 30 years and you got problems in your county, in your state, you need to be gone.
And in the country.
And in the country.
Because we refuse to work together.
Right. It's not supposed to be a career job. It's supposed to be service. It was never meant to be a career job. It was never meant to be a big job. It was meant to be a part-time job.
Yeah.
Most of the founding fathers were all farmers that got together a couple times a year.
But
to
now
work on
they're
the
all
nation.
wanting raises because they say it's not enough money to live on.
They never have enough.
Even the president's asked for a raise when he retired.
Never enough money. Never enough. And you've got money going out the window and being spent on cockamamie programs that
Right.
don't work. We'll be back next week. Yesterday's a canceled check.
Tomorrow's a promissory note, Dr. T.
Today is the only time we have. So spend it wisely. We'll see you next week.
Trouble can feel like it's here to stay. I'm